Is there anything else? Because we're coming up to the
We are coming
hour.
up to the hour. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, interpretive dances, and jingles, now's a good time.
I'll just sit here and wait.
La 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 la
Oh,
la.
I've missed a bit of the chat. Ah, so Jelly saw me going. There might be. Yes, when it comes to using geometry nodes, there is likely to be some sort of vector maths involved. Otherwise, you can't really say use these points.
I wish I'd known when I was 15 that I would end up making my living coding and that mathematics would help with that.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Because I was right in the middle of the middle stream in my school's maths thing. Streaming is like in the US, you'd be advanced and remedial classes of streams, right? So I was right in the middle of the middle stream,
oh
and I
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
average, and I was like, I'm never going to use vector mathematics. I'm never going to use algebra. I've never learned calculus. It's fine.
It turns out, I
Learn
wish I'd
everything.
listened. Yeah, one of the great things that I've come across recently is because I've been diving quite heavily into mathematics. The kids in the house, so there's five of them. Feel sorry for me, please. There are five of them, and they're like, "Why are you doing maths?" I'm like, it's actually useful, you know.
It is.
But I didn't have anybody around me that I looked up to that used mathematics in a way that was exciting and that was accessible.
When I was first starting working in Godot in 3D, I remember trying to figure out how to change direction and rotate in 3 dimensions in code.
Whee!
Whew. Yeah, I mean, this is the issue, right? When I was 15, I was going to be a theater director. My training is in theater. I consider myself a creative person, not a maths person. It wasn't until I was much older that I realized how idiotic that split is, right? You're not a maths person or a creative person. You're a person. You might have more of an inclination towards one or the other, but you're not incompetent in them
Hmm.
unless you don't practice them.
Yeah, and I've personally felt that when I look at the pillars of success that I've had, whether that be with music or with art or with maths or with speaking really wellish, then well that sounds a bit Welsh, but those things by the time you reach your mid 30s or later, you can look back and you're actually standing very high on success. You know, it's taking you a long time to get to those particular things that you're really good at. But then when you start something that's perhaps something you've not even touched since you were at school,
Mm.
that's you're doing stuff, and a lot of it is geared around people in secondary education. And so you feel like that's not your learning environment. And I've definitely struggled with that because some of the stuff that I've seen presented has been for children. And
I mean, I could go off on a major soapbox here. When I was doing my
yeah,
education degree, I really developed a hatred for this. I mean, when I was at school, it was called Back to Basics. Before then, it was called the 3 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic. Um, and then it became STEM, and then sometimes it's STEAM. I really hate the notion that there are important subjects and unimportant subjects, luxury subjects. No, there aren't. Numeracy is vital, literacy is vital, physical health is vital, knowing how to cook and eat is vital, knowing how to be creative is vital. Like creatively solving problems is actually a survival skill. You
yeah,
know, the idea that there's a top tier of mathematics and just under that languages and it's under that humanities and all the way down to the arts is great when you're in the middle of an industrial revolution and you need a bunch of peasants to run factories. But we're not in that stage. You know, we need a
no,
much more sort of Renaissance view of education, even though I know the Renaissance wasn't that. But we need a well-rounded thing where
yeah,
you're exposed to everything and everything's important, and then you can make the decisions where you want to go from there.
yeah.
Apologies, soapbox.
I've been around. Well, I would say the best way of putting it is a toxic environment where art and music gets shoved down as this isn't important, and let's say the coding and mathematics is really important because it wouldn't exist without that. You name one game that you've played that isn't Minesweeper that you haven't adored
I'd
the
say
soundtrack
Minesweeper.
of. You haven't adored the. I mean, films are a great example. Artists and creative types and mathematical types all work together to make wonderful things. It's that team
Mm.
of people good at different things that makes something absolutely wonderful.
I used to really hate it when I worked in corporate finance that in a lot of the corporate world, whatever that is, there's such a thing as the creatives who are like a whole department of like advertisers or copywriters
Uh huh.
who come in
Yeah.
casual clothes and work different hours and aren't expected to understand important things. It's like, let's all dress like that. That's a much better way to dress.
Yeah.
Coding is a creative process,
Oh, it totally
right?
is.
Performing is a technique. Like you need all of it.
I mean,
That's
what
that's my
I was put off from coding for absolute years because I was told at various points I was no good at it, and that obviously doesn't give you much confidence in the way of actually moving forward and coding. But then when I started to explore it, I was like, screw what they think. I'm a rebel. Good old me, rebel. And I started doing it, and I learnt the fun when it comes to art with it. So a lot of the mathematics that I ended up doing initially, especially with Blender, was in creating materials, in creating procedural materials. And
yeah.
suddenly you are actually using this maths without realizing it's maths because you're connecting things with a noodle in between rather than putting functions together. But suddenly it became apparent what I was doing, and then it just clicked, and then I saw it as an art form,
Hmm.
and
I mean, in
from there
coding
it's
as
just gone
well,
from
like elegance in coding, it's a very poetic way of thinking, but it's a thing.
the lines are beautifully blurred. Yeah,
Hello,
absolutely.
Durgan. Good to see you. Yeah,